Something is different in the NASCAR garage right now, and you can feel it on both sides of the emotion spectrum, pure electric excitement on one side, and deep, simmering suspicion on the other. Two stories exploded out of Darlington at the same time, and together they are creating the kind of tension that changes how an entire season feels. The first story is about history being made in real time, the kind of performance that makes you stop scrolling and start paying attention. The second story is about what happens when one team gets so good, so fast, that the rest of the garage stops admiring and starts questioning. We may be watching a moment that defines the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series season. Let's start with what actually happened on the track, because the race itself was far from a simple, clean victory. Tyler Reddick started on pole at Darlington Raceway, which set up expectations for a dominant, wire-to-wire run. But from almost the very first green flag pit stop, the day started fighting him in ways that would have ended most teams' chances entirely. This was not a race where the best car simply drove away from the field. This was a race where the number 45 team absorbed hit after hit and kept finding a way forward anyway. The first blow came during the opening green flag pit cycle, where a slow pit stop cost Reddick valuable track position at a moment when every spot matters at Darlington. At a track known for punishing mistakes and rewarding clean, consistent execution, losing ground that early in a race can set a domino effect in motion that is nearly impossible to reverse. But that was only the beginning. Shortly after, the number 45 car required a battery change, a mechanical issue that sent Reddick all the way to the rear to restart the second stage. At Darlington, losing that much ground does not just feel like a setback. For most teams, it feels like a race-ending moment. The field at this level does not give ground back easily, and restarting from the rear at one of NASCAR's most physically demanding tracks is about as difficult a hole to climb out of as the sport offers. Then came the third problem: Reddick's cool suit malfunctioned. Over 400 brutal miles under intense heat, a driver without a functioning cool suit is not just uncomfortable. They are being worn down physically lap after lap, through every corner, through every restart, through every moment where physical sharpness translates directly into tenths of a second. The cool suit is not a luxury at Darlington. It is a survival tool. And Reddick competed the majority of that race without it. Most teams and drivers who lose track position twice and deal with equipment failures at Darlington go into survival mode. The goal shifts from winning to finishing as high as possible given the circumstances. The number 45 team did the opposite. They kept pushing, kept calculating, and when the moment arrived, they executed with precision. The strategic turning point came late in the race, when Brad Keselowski had been the class of the field for long stretches. Keselowski swept both stages, led 142 laps, and RFK Racing looked completely locked in under the new rules package. The race felt like it was Keselowski's to lose. But Reddick's crew called a late pit strategy that proved to be the decisive difference. By pitting 3 laps later than Keselowski, Reddick came out with fresher tires at exactly the right moment in the race. 20 laps later, he made the winning pass, took the lead, and never looked back, stretching the gap to 5.8 seconds by the checkered flag while leading 77 laps total. The strategy call was clean, the execution was flawless, and the result was undeniable. This was Reddick's first career Darlington win and the 12th victory of his Cup Series career. But the number that really reframes everything is this: 4 wins in 6 races. As noted during the Fox broadcast, Reddick joined Dale Earnhardt in 1987 and Bill Elliott in 1992 as the only drivers in NASCAR Cup Series history to win 4 of the first 6 races in a single season. When your name is being placed alongside Earnhardt and Elliott for anything, that is a conversation worth stopping for, because both of those names represent the absolute elite of what this sport has produced. For 23XI Racing as an organization, the significance of these 4 wins goes beyond just the championship standings. These 4 wins are already the most the team has recorded in any single season since launching in 2021. Michael Jordan described the performance as unbelievable in his post-race interview with Fox Sports. Denny Hamlin's co-ownership stake in this team is looking like one of the most calculated and successful moves in recent NASCAR history. This organization is operating at a completely different level right now, and the numbers back that up with no ambiguity. Brad Keselowski did almost everything right at Darlington. He was fast from the opening laps, controlled the race for long stretches, swept both stages, and led 142 laps. On any normal race weekend, that kind of performance results in a victory. But in NASCAR, dominance without a win in the results column is still a loss, and the RFK Racing team left Darlington with questions about what more they could have done in those final laps. The team showed real strength under the new rules package, which forces drivers to manage the car more aggressively and makes tire wear a significantly larger competitive factor than it has been in recent seasons. Chris Buescher was also in the mix throughout the race, leading 41 laps and running consistently near the front. Ryan Preece brought home a 13th place finish, giving RFK 3 cars that were at least in the conversation on race day. But when the tires told the story late, Keselowski had no answer for Reddick's fresher rubber, and the gap that had looked manageable suddenly became permanent. Buescher's day was also complicated after contact with Reddick, who apparently did not realize Buescher was pitting, caused right-side damage to the RFK car. Buescher still salvaged a 9th place finish, but this felt like a race RFK Racing could have, and probably should have, won outright. Elsewhere in the field, Carson Hocevar delivered a notable performance for Chevrolet, starting at the rear due to unapproved adjustments but charging all the way to 4th after staying out longer than the field under green. That is a significant result for Spire Motorsports, a team that does not often find itself in conversations about top 5 finishes at tracks this demanding. Ryan Blaney and Austin Cindric gave Team Penske solid finishes in 3rd and 5th respectively, keeping that organization in the points conversation. William Byron was the best of the Hendrick Motorsports cars in 8th, but that group did not have their usual race-winning speed on this particular day. The story that requires its own sentence is Joey Logano. A 3-time champion and former Darlington Spring winner went a lap down just 34 laps into the race and finished 33rd. The number 22 team has real and serious questions to answer about where their performance has gone, because a result like that from a driver of Logano's caliber at a track he has historically run well at is not a one-off anomaly, it is a problem that demands examination. Now the story shifts to what is changing the mood inside the NASCAR garage. Because Tyler Reddick's dominance is no longer just earning admiration from competitors, it is generating real, organized suspicion from rival organizations, and that is a distinction that matters enormously in how this season gets defined. According to sources familiar with the situation, multiple rival teams have been raising concerns about whether the number 45 car is fully compliant with NASCAR's rule book. An internal petition is reportedly being circulated across garage organizations with the explicit goal of pushing NASCAR to perform a deeper, more thorough technical inspection of 23XI Racing's cars. This is not casual hallway grumbling between crews after a long race weekend. This is organized, deliberate pushback from teams who have the data, the timing sheets, and the competitive intelligence to form a basis for their concerns. One anonymous team executive was quoted saying the competitive gap simply does not make sense, pointing specifically to long-run pace, tire wear, and drive off the corner as being on a completely different level from the rest of the field. When someone at that level of the sport, someone who sees the same timing and scoring data that the teams on track see, says something like that publicly, even under anonymity, it carries real weight that cannot be dismissed as sour grapes from a team having a bad weekend. The 3 specific concerns being raised within the garage center on distinct and measurable areas of performance. The first is unusual tire longevity compared to the rest of the field. Reddick's car is reportedly holding up its tires longer than any other team can explain from a setup or driving style perspective. The second concern is superior acceleration and drive off the corners, particularly in the late stages of runs when other cars are losing grip and Reddick appears to maintain or even improve his forward bite. The third, and perhaps the most difficult to explain away, is the consistency of long-run pace regardless of track type or conditions. That last point deserves specific emphasis. It is one thing to find a setup that works at one specific track, teams do that regularly, and it shows up as a single strong weekend that is followed by regression to the mean. What teams across the NASCAR garage cannot easily explain is how the number 45 car keeps showing up with this kind of pace week after week, at road courses, intermediate tracks, and traditional ovals, under different weather conditions, under completely different race scenarios. That level of multi-surface, multi-condition consistency is what is making other teams uncomfortable and fueling an organized response rather than just individual frustration. NASCAR's official response to the growing pressure was measured and direct. The sanctioning body stated that all cars go through strict inspection protocols both before and after every race, and that there are currently no findings indicating any rules violations from 23XI Racing. That is the official and current position of the governing body, and it matters because at this moment, this remains suspicion, not a confirmed violation, not a penalty, and not a finding of any kind. 23XI Racing pushed back firmly against the narrative. A team spokesperson stated they are operating fully within the rules and that their performance is the result of preparation, execution, and a talented team working at a high level. That is exactly what any competitive team would say when faced with these kinds of accusations. It is also entirely possible that it is simply the truth. This is not the first time a dominant team in NASCAR history has faced questions of this nature. Whenever one car begins consistently beating the rest of the field, the garage starts looking for explanations beyond talent and preparation. Sometimes those questions lead to real findings and confirmed violations. More often, they lead nowhere, and the dominant team keeps winning while the suspicion gradually fades. The important fact right now is that these concerns are being raised loudly enough, and with enough organizational backing, that they have become a defining storyline of the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series season, whether anyone in the garage intended that outcome or not. When you put the on-track dominance and the off-track controversy side by side, the real story of the 2026 season comes into clear focus. Tyler Reddick has to keep proving this is genuine, sustainable greatness rather than a hot streak with an asterisk attached to it. 23XI Racing has to keep winning with the harshest spotlight in NASCAR pointed directly at their operation. NASCAR has to ensure every inspection is airtight and every legitimate question from the garage receives a clear, transparent answer. And the rest of the field, Keselowski, Bisher, Byron, Hosvar, Blaney, Cindric, Logano, and everyone else, has to figure out how to close a gap that keeps looking wider every single weekend. Greatness and controversy have arrived at the same time, at the same team, creating a story with no clean resolution yet. Whether you believe Reddick and 23XI Racing are simply the best team in NASCAR right now, or whether you think the garage has every right to push for harder answers, one thing is undeniable: everybody in the sport is chasing one driver, one car number, and one story that is not going away anytime soon. Drop a comment below and let us know where you stand. Is 23XI Racing just that good, or do the rival teams have a legitimate point? If you want honest, fact-based NASCAR coverage every single week, hit that subscribe button and join the community here at NASCAR Nation Report.